a thumbnail. Here we are. So thank you so much to the NCAS-M team for the invitation to give this presentation. And as Joanne mentioned, this is a relatively short webinar. So I'm going to limit my comments on the slides to about 10, no more than 12 minutes to give you all a chance to ask questions. And the purpose of the presentation is to talk to you more about the direct hire authority that was recently adopted by NOAA, and that is the NOAA Conservation Corps Act direct hire authority. So NOAA has, and the federal government in general has a number of authorities that it may use for direct hire. And essentially, just to give you some background information, direct hire essentially means that the hiring process is to federal employment is made a little bit more seamlessly. In order to qualify for direct hire, you have to meet certain criteria um, related to that particular direct hire authority. And the one that I'm talking to you about today is the one that the EPP MSI program in particular has opportunities to use to bring on students who are supported through the program. So for in general information, this direct hire authority was adopted back in 2019, and it started to be a direct hire authority aimed at the National Marine Sanctuary System. Because of the lack of diversity among scientists in that field. But as NOAA began to look at this authority more broadly, they saw where they could take advantage of it to increase diversity across all line offices within NOAA. And line offices, for those of you who do not know, are like the department. So that would include the National Ocean Service, the National Weather Service, NOAA Research, NOAA Fisheries, all of our line offices within NOAA can utilize this direct hiring authority. And it's right now it's billed as our priority authority to increase diversity and reduce barriers to federal hiring through that process. And honestly, I was involved in some of the very early meetings when NOAA was thinking about adopting this policy, and it was really aimed toward the EPP MSI program. Although there are, I think, 8 programs within NOAA that are eligible to be considered under this direct hire authority, EPP MSI program was at the forefront of the thinking when they decided to adopt this program, because we are the only program with the sole purpose of educating and training students from traditionally underrepresented minority communities. So the program policy reads such that recent graduates, so within 2 years of your graduation from an institution of higher education, from with particular particular emphasis on minority serving institutions. And as you're aware, that's the components of the EPP MSI program. So students who graduate within 2 years can utilize the direct hire authority. Please excuse the noise in my background. Um, So candidates may be appointed without competitive examination or competing with career and career conditional employees. Essentially what that means, and I'll get into it in a second, is when you go to USA Jobs and you see a position, you can submit an application for that position, but there's an entire convoluted process and the very high level of competition against everyone who competes for that program. In general, there's a scoring system associated with the sorry about that. Veterans preference does not apply. So when you're applying for these positions, and there's no competition with veterans, and that's huge because veterans have hiring preference when it comes to federal employment. That's why you see a large percentage of the federal workforce associated with veterans because of that preference. So these are some of the eligibility requirements. So pay attention to the left hand pane, because that's where your eligibility would come in. So you would have to complete a rigorous undergraduate or graduate summer internship. So if you're a graduate student being supported by NCAS-M, you're required to do a NERTO. That NERTO is going to help you fulfill that eligibility requirement. You also have to be certified by your mentor or supervisor as being high performing during that internship. So it's not only important that you complete the internship. You have to do a good job. Ultimately, your program managers at NCAS-M, as well as the program managers within NOAA, have to certify you as being an eligible candidate for direct hire. So we want to put our best students forth for um, eligibility for these positions. So you want to ensure that when you're on your NERTO or you're completing your internship, that you're putting your best foot forward. And it's important to know also that, this is not really a cause for concern because your NERTOs are going to occur at a NOAA facility, but the research has to be done under the tutelage of a NOAA mentor and at a NOAA facility. You also have to meet the OPM requirements for the particular position that you're applying for. So for instance, if the position calls for a bachelor's degree with 3 years of experience, or the 3 years of experience can be substituted by a master's or a PhD degree, you still have to meet those qualifications. So in order to be eligible for the direct hire, you have to have graduated. So for instance, if you graduate in August, like if you're about to graduate this summer, you have until August 2023 to use your direct hire authority eligibility. We can certify you immediately upon graduation and give you the needed paperwork, which I'll talk about in a second, and then you can begin applying for positions. So to go back into what qualifies for that rigorous internship, and I kind of covered it before we got to this slide, but I thought it was important to talk about this, particularly for undergraduates. For undergraduates, there must be a minimum of 10 weeks of full-time work. So if you're an undergraduate and you're in a structured program such as the undergraduate sciences program, then we vet your internships so we know that they're rigorous. So successful completion of that program would also put you under the realm of eligibility. However, if you complete an internship, say for instance, you're an undergraduate supported by NCAS-M, you go to a NOAA facility and you complete an internship, but it's not under an EPP program, you still can be eligible for a direct hire. We would just have to vet the internship to ensure that the work you did was 10 weeks full time and that that was rigorous work. And that's something that we can do by working with the mentor to certify that those criteria were met. Now you can ask questions about, I know that may be a little confusing. We had this case come up just recently with some students who did internships with the weather forecast office, but it's perfectly acceptable to be an undergraduate and get those experience outside of like an EPP MSI official program. So how and when to apply? USAjobs.gov is typically where you would apply for these positions. NOAA has agreed to do a biannual announcement of CCA job opportunities. That means that 2 times per year, we go out to each of the line offices and we ask for positions to include in the CCA job announcements. These announcements are only sent to students who've graduated from eligible programs. So that means that the public doesn't even get to see these available opportunities at NOAA, which is huge. NOAA traditionally has not done a lot of early career hires, I'll say, over the last 10 years. So with the advent of the direct hire authority, we're starting to look more so at the need for bringing on early career candidates in order to succession plan because NOAA does have an aging workforce. So it's typically through USA Job, but there are also other specialized methods with direction from NOAA. Essentially what that means is that if there's an office who has an immediate need for a candidate or someone from the centers or one of the eligible programs, they could send NOAA Human Resources a position. They vet the position and then they give information to us to collect resumes. We recently did this and the students were able to submit their resumes, like their personal statements, as well as their certificates of eligibility directly to the person hiring. So the people who applied for the last position that was advertised did not have to go to USA Jobs at all. So I will say that each year when we do the biannual call for applications, that will be through USA Jobs, but throughout the year as things come up, it may not necessarily be. So it's important that you stay in contact with your education lead as well as your center leadership to gain insight on how and when to apply to these positions. So upon successful completion of your academic program, you will receive a certificate of eligibility, which looks like the picture here. It'll have your name and the program that you came through. It'll also have the start and end dates of your internships. So that's why it's important that we get those full 10 weeks of work at a minimum, because we're going to certify and we're going to sign our names and say, yes, this student did complete this work. Yes, it was rigorous and they met all of the requirements. So that is essentially the process for a direct hire. And I know that was very quick, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask questions. Um, this is my contact information as well as the email address for the EPP program office if you had any questions you want to ask by email, but I'm ready now to entertain any questions you all may have.
Hi, thanks again, Dr. White. I see Kim has a question, and there was one in the chat. Did you see that, Joanne?
Yes, I was speaking, but my mic was off. I'm seeing a question in the chat from
Okay.
Cole. It says, how does this changing if I have to spend, how does this change if I have to spend an extra semester in college? Does the timer start when I walk or finish classes?
The time starts from the date on your degree. So if your degree is conferred in August 2020, your time starts August 2020. And you wouldn't be eligible for the direct hire until your degree has been conferred. If, say, for instance, we do the next round of applications is going to open in November. If the next round of applications open in November and you graduate in December, you can still apply because you will meet the qualifications by the closing date likely of the announcement or before job offers will go out. So if it's like within a month or two, then you're okay. But if it's like an entire semester or a few months, then it wouldn't behoove you to apply yet.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either place your questions in the chat or you can speak up and ask your questions. There's another question from Crystal. Crystal, where or how do you apply for the certificate of eligibility?
So once you graduate, I generally do a call for eligible graduates with the center leadership, and they will provide your name and we will provide the certificates once you're officially vetted. So that typically happens about 2 months after the semester is over. If a certificate is needed before that time and you're an eligible candidate, we can do it at any time. I can work with NCAS-M leadership to get the certificate to you. No worries about that. But just the general issuing of certificates happens after each semester.
I do have a question as well. Oh, sorry.
Okay, you can go ahead, Pamela.
Thank you, Dr. Mansell. So maybe you answered this question on the previous question, but let's say I applied through USA Jobs.gov and so I'm going to apply there together with everybody. At which point on this application will they know that I do have a certification because of my successfully completed NERTO?
So when it comes to the biannual announcements, these are blind links that are only sent to eligible candidates. So like the general public wouldn't be able to apply to those particular positions. If you see a position that's advertised by NOAA and you're not sure it's associated with the direct hire authority, there should be contact information for the hiring manager on there. And I suggest that you contact that person and see if they're utilizing direct hire authorities to hire for that particular position. So it's possible that positions out there that don't come directly from our announcements, it's possible you can utilize this authority to be hired by those, but the positions that come through our announcements, they are looking for the certificate. So that'll be a required part of your application. And they'll know, I mean, it's not going to say NERTO, it's going to say internship. So and that's another part of the branding. So it'll give you an opportunity to choose the program that you completed, and it'll be the EPP MSI program. And then you'll have to upload your certificate, and the certificate will give them the information they need to know about your NERTO.
Okay. Kim, I missed you. Kim next, and then I will go to Ariana and then Amanda. So Kim?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question when it came to certifying a student and the mentor. Do the mentor have to be a NOAA employee, or could the mentor be a NOAA contractor?
So for NERTOs, the mentor should be a NOAA employee.
I'm thinking more of the undergraduates.
They should be NOAA employees as well. So if there's a NOAA affiliate who is the primary mentor, they should still have a FTE as the primary mentor, even if the affiliate is the primary, like day-to-day person. To be eligible, they need to have that NOAA employee.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, there was a question from Ariana. If you receive direct hire as a master's student but continue on to a new PhD program, will you not be eligible by the time you graduate?
No, you will be. So once if you can complete your master's degree as an NCAS-M student, you have 2 years of eligibility. Once you receive that PhD, your 2 years will renew, even if your PhD is not done through NCAS-M.
Okay. Question from Amanda. Are the biannual announcements always in the same month? For example, May, November?
They're around that time, yes. So I'll just give you guys an indication. Over the first round of CCA went out in 2020, and since that time, so it's been about a year ago, 11 job offers have come from this effort. And of those 11, I believe 5 have come from EPP MSI. So that is, I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about the fact that and these are federal positions, these are not contracting positions. When you think about the number of federal employees that NOAA brings on, this is really big stuff. And we're trying to increase the number, because since this is a direct hiring authority, and this is a point that I didn't make during the presentation, is while you're on your NERTO, it's to your benefit to network. So if the office that you're working with could potentially have a position coming up, be sure to express your interest in working with that office. If that's the work you can see yourself doing as your career, be sure to network and let them know your interest in that office, because if they have a position, they don't have to advertise it. They could literally work with HR to bring you on into that position without competition. That's the benefit of this. And that's where, as a program, we as EPP see our students being able to get into the workforce in greater numbers. Is it's up to the student as well as NCAS-M and the staff. As you interact with NOAA scientists and you start to understand where hires may be, it's important to show interest of the students, or have in mind what students may be interested or may fit well within their office, because this is something that they can use to bring the students on without having to advertise a position.
And were you saying that it was 5 out of the 11 went to EPP students?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there is a question from Julia. What kind of positions are typically offered through this opportunity?
It runs the gamut. I think the office with the most advertisements has been NOAA Fisheries, and I believe that NOAA Fisheries is probably doing the most hiring right now. But and I honestly have not seen through the official announcements many come from the Weather Service, but the Weather Service uses direct hire all the time. So most of, and also there have been positions like in the ocean service, like management and program analysts, the fisheries biologists, and there have been some biologist positions, physical scientists. So it's been a range. It's pretty diverse.
Mhm. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Any questions? Feel free to
I
raise
think
your
Pamela has her hand up, Joanne.
Pamela. Let's see. Okay, I'm not seeing on my screen.
Okay, she did it one time. Pamela, did you have a question?
Yes, but it was already answered. Thank you so much,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Terry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I guess I would ask Dr. White, in terms of students planning forward, you mentioned how, I guess you should talk to your mentors that you've worked with at NOAA doing your internships about your interest in working for their offices. Is there any other bit of advice you would give for our students to be really active in seeking these opportunities?
I just, stay connected with your center leadership because they're going to be the ones who get the notice regarding the announcements. And usually we at NOAA receive like 2 weeks notice when they're about to do the next round of announcements. And I try to give the center some heads up so that they can contact the students who may be eligible. That is going to be particularly important once you graduate, because during that 2 years of eligibility, you're not likely going to be in regular contact with the center. But if it is your desire to work with NOAA, you should definitely keep them in the loop as to what you're doing and, express your desire to work with NOAA and apply to one of the direct hire positions.
There is another question from Mackenzie. Does the Pathways program use direct hire?
Pathways is a direct hire authority in itself. So the same as with the difference with Pathways in this program is Pathways starts off as an internship. So it's like a 1-year internship. And once you complete that Pathways year, they may either extend you or non-competitively convert you to a federal position. So that's also another viable way into federal workforce is through Pathways. But Pathways have veterans preference, and the public is eligible to apply. So if you went through Pathways, you couldn't also use the CCA Direct Hire Authority to get into NOAA. If you apply to Pathways, you have to go through the Pathways process.
Okay. And another question from Cole. Does this authority apply to other organizations like the EPA, Forest Service, and the Smithsonian?
We have not been able to get interagency reciprocity for the direct hire authority, but some of them, I know the Department of Interior, I believe, also has a similar direct hire authority, but I don't think that they will accept your NOAA internship as eligibility for their program. So you would need to check with them. But I know, from our perspective, as far as like the team that deals with NOAA CCA, we don't accept opportunities from other agencies. It's only work done through NOAA, through programs that are supported by NOAA.
I have another question for you. I noticed you said that from the positions that have been gone through, none of them were from National Weather Service. Do you expect to see that increase in the upcoming year, or what?
We do. Now the Weather Service is they have some things that are hitting the streets that I can't really talk about that are going to utilize direct hire authority. They just have not participated to the level that other line offices have when it came to the like official announcements. But I believe the Bill Parker at the Jackson Weather Forecast Office, he has utilized this, or he was attempting to utilize this direct hire authority to bring students on. And he was running into trouble because the students completed internships that weren't like officially vetted through EPP ahead of time. We were working with him after the fact, and I haven't heard much about what the outcome of that was, but that's the extent to which, at least from my knowledge, that the Weather Service has been involved. But NESDIS has been actively involved, which would be another line office probably aligned with interests of NCAS-M students.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? Sydney has a question. How would we be contacted of CCA job opportunities since our NOAA account will be deactivated after our internship is over?
So you would need to share your contact information with your center. And so the information will come through them. So ensure every time you change, just make sure they have your personal email, because your personal email is not likely to change. And then they can send that information to your personal email once the announcements come out.
And I would like to add that if we don't already have it, we're adding a portion to our website where we're putting opportunities, and we make an effort to send out really important opportunities all out to our students as well as alumni. So we're really making an effort to do that. So check your messages. And I know when you get a lot of messages from the same office, it gets tiring. But, if you really want to take advantage of these opportunities like this, that Dr. White and others on her team are working really hard to provide for our students, please just click in and at least make sure it's not a direct hire message before you go on to ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And these opportunities, at least the announcement about the direct hire announcements, are typically posted on Office of Education LinkedIn sites. You can't click on the job announcement. I don't think we even post a link to the job announcement because it's a private link, but we do say, it's coming up. So that's your key there to check with your center to get that information.
I just want to make one quick announcement extending what Terry just said. For all of our alumni, that, the NCAS-M now has an alumni page. On that page, you'll be able to see these opportunities available. So alumni, please make sure you check the website as well, because we will make them available on the alumni page.
Okay.
Dr. Maxwell Patty?
Yes.
So Dr. White mentioned that she said she refers to make sure that your center has your information. For us, what will that be? Our center?
The center, make sure that we have the center information. Not clear of your question, Pamela. Just you're asking.
Okay, sorry about that. So somebody else asked Dr. White, how would I or NERTO students be notified when, after we finish our NERTO, our NOAA account gets deactivated? So Dr. White mentioned that make sure that it says your center has your contact information. I don't understand the center. Will that be you?
Yes, it would be the center. It would be me. Yes, it would be me. And I do have your contact information.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Kim, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was going to say also to be Malika Matthews, who asks for updates for all our students on a yearly basis for our tracking purposes. That's why it's so important that you all respond to her with your information.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's now 3:00. I have to hop off to another meeting, but I would like to thank you so much, Dr. White, for this very informative presentation, and I would like to thank all those who joined the presentation and asked questions. With that said, the webinar has now ended, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. White.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Buddy.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Thanks. Bye.